BBC Audio presents Doctor Who, The Minds of Magnox, by Darren Jones. Read by Jacob Dudman. The Doctor stuffed his hands into the trouser pockets of his brown pinstriped suit and kicked at the ground, scuffing up a cloud of dust. He'd expected something more impressive from the capital of Magnox, the mythical planet that housed all known knowledge in the universe, a world where information itself was a currency. It had been described as a beacon of civilization, one of the original great cosmic wonders. But in reality, it resembled a mashup between Venice and Milton Keynes, in the event that they'd had a fight and Milton Keynes had won on a technicality. A grid of narrow canals flowed through wide streets, bordered by gleaming sandstone buildings. Skiffs skimmed across the shallow waters, ferrying people and goods to and from the lofty structures. Above the streets, busy metal walkways spanned the canals, randomly connecting building to building. If the architecture was a little monotonous, then it made the sight of the Magnoxan people so much more remarkable. Each Magnoxan had a differently shaped skull structure, intricate and unique to the individual, depending on how much they'd studied. The more knowledge they'd acquired, the more they resembled walking works of art. Brian the Ood, trained assassin, and the Doctor's alien travelling companion, looked out of place in his suit. Since their unlikely alliance was formed, they'd seen the universe descend into chaos. Brian had secretly found that invigorating, and by comparison Magnox was a little too organised. He raised the glowing translation sphere that was connected to his tentacled mouth by a cord, and his calm voice emanated from the orb.
Mr. Ball and myself wonder what interests you in this planet, Doctor.
Magnox is a legendary world, Brian,
said the Doctor.
It doesn't exist in your time. It's briefly mentioned in the Gallifreyan records, but nobody knows why it faded from history. But right now, it's one of the greatest receptacles of knowledge the universe has ever known.
Brian tilted his head to one side.
And we are here because?
Because I need to ask a question. And if the answer exists, it'll be here on Magnox.
In the distance, the Doctor could make out a large domed building rising higher than any other in the city.
That's the Chronicon, the fabled house of insight and home to the Minds of Magnox. That's where we need to go.
And he began to stride down the street before he realised Brian was not following.
Oh, you're not coming?
Mr. Ball would prefer to explore. I also think it might be more stimulating. Dusty old books tend to make my eyes water.
Suit yourself, but stay out of trouble.
Brian blinked rapidly.
Mr. Ball does not know what you mean.
Don't do any uncalled for zapping. I'll meet you back at the ship.
And the Doctor began the long trek towards the imposing Chronicon. Brian strolled through the city, taking in its ambience. He was intrigued by the Magnoxans and their strange but fascinating skull structures. Mr. Ball was wondering what it would be like to break some of those skulls and peer inside. But Brian thought that would be indulgent, not to mention impolite. He passed a group of market traders, many of whom were selling old books and pamphlets on science and philosophy. One stall sold art that consisted of framed quotations, presumably by famous intellectuals. Payment was in a currency called infos. Brian recognised that the coinage was a type of microdisc for data storage. Information was undeniably king on Magnox. The place made Brian feel restless. All these little lives, trading in little facts to better enlighten themselves. Really, what was the point in gathering so much knowledge when life could end at any moment? Mr. Ball was itching to cause some havoc. Whether that would be for the greater good or bad, well, Brian wondered if he had a proper choice in the matter.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?